Welcome back for another episode of the Voices of MED13L. Today, we're starting our Growing Up with MED13L series with Life at 12. And I'm so happy to be joined by fellow MED13L parent, Katie Johnston. In this episode, we're joined by Katie, mom to Addie, who lives in New York with her younger sister, Tenley, and soon-to-be stepdad, Chris. Together, their family brings so much warmth and joy to daily life. Katie will share a brief overview of Addie's initial diagnosis of MED13L and give us a glimpse into what life looks like for her at age 12, from the challenges to the celebrations and everything in between. Katie, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us to share where Addie is at today.
I'm so happy to be here.
Can you tell me about your initial diagnosis?
Yeah, Addie was 9 in 2022. We were just preparing to move into a new house with our family, as you described. And we were at Albany Medical Center when we finally got a diagnosis. It was September of 2022. I remember we were in the room together. We had done the genetic swabs earlier in the year, but that was May. So we had to wait all summer for some kind of diagnosis. At that point, we were just living for 9 years with MED13L, being told we had cerebral palsy, epilepsy. Cerebral palsy wasn't enough, so we just kept going. We had complications even getting to our diagnosis, as many of us do, multiple specialists, insurance changes, affordability, and then later affordability for additional screening. And so that day we came home with answers, but way more questions.
What did receiving that diagnosis change for Addie's plan?
Yeah, I mean, her plan still seems so unclear at 12, but what it did help us to do was provide information to various providers, doctors. Shortly after our diagnosis, the MED13L Foundation received the ICD-10 code. So we were able to provide that to the primary care doctor, to the schools. I was able to muscle around a little bit heavier with IUP, which was great for our advocacy for her because now, it seemed like even though the plans didn't necessarily change, I had a newfound strength to just advocate even further for her because of, and I have goosebumps now, but being in part of a community where like we had a name, and for some reason having the name just provided so much new energy into, all right, there's hope for her. And we still didn't really have a whole lot of kids, but we're starting to meet older kids. We're starting to see and experience the new diagnoses that would come in every day around the time that we did and be able to offer our experience of her being 9. And so I think the most impactful thing that came from the diagnosis was that new strength primarily for me, and whoever got to learn a little bit more about her in her periphery, we were able to hook them up with more information, and there was more and more medical literature. So I feel as though we were a new player in 2022 to the diagnosis, but that was really the time that the foundation's work came to a point that we could more largely educate and advocate. So it just became just this exciting new time and new energy for me, especially.
You mentioned that having this new diagnosis actually gave you power for Addie's IEP. Can you give us a little more information on where Addie is at now academically and what her classroom setting looks like and what type of services she receives in school?
Yeah, so she has always received from when she was very little. She wasn't meeting milestones back as early as 10 months when she couldn't sit straight. Christmas, I had to make sure she wasn't wobbling when she was playing with her first toys. And she was born in May. So about that time, we were looking at early intervention. So we did that. And she had always then, since very young, after that discovery, some doctors had told us we should wait a little longer to see if she catches up. I do think that it was just like this big energy build for me to go out and say, hey, here's some material. So now I actually had something I could serve up other than just cerebral palsy. I could say that this is due to these genetic factors. And by the way, my kid's not the only one. So you've never seen them. They don't exist in this county, maybe. At least I still don't think so, or it's been undiagnosed. But I was able to go in and provide now more literature. It came after her diagnosis, so it wasn't all available right at the time. But since then, I've been able to share a stack and say also like the one pager that the foundation put out that said about me. So I share that with her teachers and all of her providers at school and her doctors who aren't familiar. Her neurologist has become more familiar over time, and even friends. So we came so close to her first sleepover. So we'll talk more, I'm sure, about social activities in and outside of school. But that helps me to even tell the parents, like, it's very obvious that she can't reply in the speech that we're used to from a neurotypical 12-year-old. And I feel the need to address it without Addie's ears around, but I will. And she's aware that Addie's body has MED13L, is what we kind of say. And she's also aware that she has seizures and her medicine is for seizures, and she can name her seizure medicine is Keppra. So part of her safety questions. So now I can actually communicate this to friends, family, new friends, providers with some of the tools that have been provided by the foundation, which has been very helpful. And even, for example, the OPWDD resources that I've had, like a behavioral therapist, I can say, like, this is more about Addie, and these are what these kids present with. So I feel that I'm armed with more resources to introduce the world to Addie.
Yeah, receiving a diagnosis of something that you've been living with for so long really does open up a whole world of connection and opportunity and knowledge. I think it's so important. Can you tell us about Addie's academic setup right now? What type of class is she in? What type of services she receives at school?
Yeah. So I think it's important to know that she started, I'll tell you the beginning. She was in a wraparound class. So it was really a school for adults, but they had the preschool there. So Adeline even got bused there from her daycare. And so she started with a teacher for the deaf, which was exciting because she was signing all of the time. She did 2 years there and then was at the public school system and is still in the public school system here in our town. And so she's been in a self-contained class, and she had the same teacher from kindergarten through second grade, and then third through fifth. We were able to retain her one more year because of the age of the children in the class, the range. And then she just had a new teacher in sixth grade before, excitingly this year, entering the junior high. We did finally decide that Adeline's best trajectory is probably not in a self-contained, modified, adapted class, that really she deserved more attention. She was starting to model behavior, and it's really unfair, but most children will get stuck in a special education class, and there's such a range of needs and abilities in those classrooms. Now we have taken her off from the traditional regents, or the language is, I'm not in education, but she will not be eligible for a diploma. She's now on the alternative assessment path, which means that her classroom is much smaller. It's 3 children and a sometimes child, a fourth one. And it's one-to-one. Her IEP doesn't state one-to-one, but that's how it is right now. And she is mainstreamed for chorus and music only. So here's another interesting thing that you have to really, again, go in there and muscle around. Having been put in this new special education specific alternative assessment class meant that she was separated from her peers that used to be in these other classrooms. And interestingly, our district actually reduced the number of elementary schools they had. So Addie was familiar with 2 different kids from 2 different schools in her career in primary school. So now in middle school, I had to just this year say, why is she not in chorus? Or why is she not participating here? And really push for the same things the other children get. So thankfully, that's just happened. And now, although her classroom's much smaller, we're trying to combat that with extracurricular activities. And hey, Addie's in seventh grade, but you didn't invite her into the drama class. How do we get her going into that too? It's just as important, we feel, for us to make sure the world can understand who Addie is, in addition to getting Addie ready for a hard world.
Absolutely. Can you let us know what type of services is Addie currently receiving in school and what the frequency is?
Sure, it's still the same PT, OT, speech, and adaptive gym. So, as far as gym goes, that can be a really overwhelming, overstimulating experience for any child, I think. But Addie is then like joins all of the special education children for like 13 in gym. All of the frequencies are going to be tough for me to remember, but she, I think, has gym every other day. The PT we did reduce, so her body is responding well over time. And I don't know if we'll get to this, but Addie has a missense variant, and I think we're still compiling a lot of data to see how this all presents. But she can move. just fine. She can run. She can run fast. She loves running. She loves the treadmill. So PT was reduced down to one time or twice a cycle. And then OT, there's, I believe, group sessions and single sessions. So another thing that the providers wanted to try to make clear to me, although initially I thought that it was doing a disservice, was that we should include group therapy as well as individual. And that's also been very successful for speech. So for speech, I've pushed hard because that is one of these major areas that I want her to have support in. And we have a hard time finding private speech therapy, even with being in the Hudson Valley. And so she's still getting two group speech and two individual speech per cycle for a 6-day cycle. So four of those. And we are also the only child in this classroom, not the district, but I think there's one other in the district with an AAC device. Unfortunately, we did not carry through with that. So a suggestion to any of you with smaller children is to do the sign, do the AAC, do everything you can the whole time. We stopped signing and got a little lazy around that because Addie was communicating verbally, which was awesome. And then she would do what she can with that verbal communication. We'll talk more about that. And then we finally got that C device. It was just it was after the pandemic, but we hadn't really integrated it into her communication skills. So she really doesn't prefer it, but we try to use it. So now we're really working hard to try to get that as more of a global tool for her. And there is a new device that looks like a phone. So she's like really excited to end up having a phone soon. So she's still continuing to get all the same services that she did when she was much younger through earlier intervention. But we're having to, again, make sure that it fits her in school. It's challenging with the scheduling, but we're holding them to it.
It sounds like she's receiving a lot of fantastic support. So, can you tell us about what reading and writing looks like for her now?
Yeah, still very much a challenge, but her handwriting has become really exciting and clear, and she can't just write a sentence if you say it out loud. Unless you say there's like I love you or names, her name, she can write clearly. But over the summer, we've continued to have like tutoring services that we'd paid a former teacher for. So she loved to be able to go to the teacher's house. It was a big activity for her, and her handwriting, if she's focused and not tired, can be really clear now. You can identify the letters and the words, but you do need to prompt her. So she'll copy a sentence, for example, I can put the child kick the ball, and she will copy it on her own paper, and it's very clear, but she can't transfer that herself without the prompt. Reading, we are not doing as much reading as we should be. And Addie loves to read, but what she always has loved to do is be the leader in whatever situation she is. So even in school, her teachers will tell you like she wants to be the teacher. She wants to be the person, the leader of whatever activity. That's true at home too, which means we have a confident little boss at home. But our experience is she will take a book, she will read a couple pages, and it's kind of making up the same story sometimes that she remembers from other readings. And then she'll turn the book over to me. So, like before bedtime, then I can read a couple of the pages. So, that's really to continue to get her buy-in because she's at an age where she just wants like digital things now. She's not even excited about books, which is concerning for any child, right? So, we have to give her the opportunity to do it in the way that she likes, and then we read next to her.
So, how is Addie communicating verbally? Is she able to get her point across, her needs met?
Yeah, it's easy at home to know what she wants and needs and kind of to make sure that happens. But we're better at certain times, right? It's never perfect of requiring her to use the words or use the AAC device to tell us what she wants. Like, no, you can't have it. We know what you want, but you got to tell us. Come on, don't be lazy. We can do this. So she can speak in sentences. Interestingly, songs, she can belt out an entire Taylor Swift song. It may not be intelligible to everyone, and even I have a hard time understanding some things, but I can pick up on keywords and then ask her, oh, did you say this? So she's very aware that even I have a challenge with understanding her sometimes. And that's an opportunity for us to then just reiterate that we have these tools. If it gets frustrating, we can use this. But generally, she will say our names, even tell us a brief story when prompted. I just did one of these surveys. She'll just say, good. How's your day? Good. Can you tell me one thing that was exciting about your day? Maybe she'll say, Mackenzie, because she was able to go on a walk with her friend Mackenzie, but she can't really give me color to the story. So that's again where I encourage younger parents to just get with that C device, all keep it going, because that's the biggest struggle I think as a mom is that I want to know her philosophies. I want to know what she's afraid of. I want to know more than the one 2, 3 word answers. So although she's capable of speaking in sentences, it's not what comes easily for her. So is that helpful?
Yes. And do you feel as though she gets frustrated when she's unable to communicate her full philosophy, as you say?
No, I don't think she goes to lengths to make sure that I understand. I just try to tailor the conversation so that she is able to, if she needs to, like first say, okay, well, what are we feeling about this important topic we're talking about? So we also have like a clinical toy that shows faces for emotions and the words underneath that would relate to them. So I found those tools to be helpful too. It's still very much an ongoing frustration. If she desires something strongly and we're not getting the point, she'll just yell or walk away. Obviously, not really the communication that we want to foster. We want to get better at that, but it can be frustrating. And to me, again, as the mom heart is very much curiosity about what is she feeling at a deeper level. And those are the kind of things that we require like a quiet space where it's
Mhm.
just us, where she feels that, okay, we've done the things Addie wants to do, and then we can like get into that connection mode. And then that's a more successful, ripe time to get more words out of her and try to put them together. But it is sometimes a guessing game.
So, can you give the listeners an idea about Addie's socialization? How is she doing with her friends? How does she interact with her sister and perhaps her classmates?
Yeah. I think I'll start at home. We've got a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. They have their own rooms and they're kind of at the age where they like to like talk to their friends, or Addie talks to her grandparents more by default because they're the ones who answer consistently. And they kind of have their own little separate lives, is what's happening right now. But when we encourage them to kind of be together, they can be normal siblings, right? Like they're either last night when I was on the treadmill, I could hear them fighting over Legos, and Addie broke a whole Lego set that we put together. And Tenley was very upset about that because she was excited that we'd been making progress. So that happens. And then there are also times where Addie will mother her sister like a big sister does. They also have two households. And so when they go to their dad's house, they very much are like, there's no mom there. So it's just the two of them. And I find that they're very connected when they come back home from their dad's house. And so it's sort of a mix. It's like the regular sibling routine. And then also, she's that typical glass child, as much as we try to protect her from that. She really appreciates it. It's important to bring a little light to her experience too. We went out for errands together, just Tenley and I, the other day, and it was for a moment like I had my child without having to. I'm sure this is true for any sibling situation, right? Without having to also labor, I'd feel, for the other child. And so try to be very aware of both of those things, but they have a great relationship. They also fight. Not a whole lot, but they get frustrated. But last night I made them hug each other and make amends. And they did, and we moved on. So generally they're who you'd expect sisters to be.
That's so true. I think people often want to focus on the fact that these children have differences, but there's so much beauty in the siblings just seeing them as other siblings rather than focusing on the
Yeah.
MED13L.
Yeah. And I'll also say that Tenley's friends, so she's had lots of opportunities for sleepovers to both be invited and to have them here. And Addie just missed the chance at her first one because she became sick and she was really looking forward to that. But Tenley's friends have been really great and inclusive, and Adeline loves that when she can just kind of be the sister that's part of the equation, and Tenley gets frustrated. So it's an interesting thing to watch, and Tenley's accepting of her and sometimes not.
So would you say that Addie's really social?
Yeah, she's very social. So something about Addie, and I think many of these kids that we've identified in the community, they have such great spirits. They're funny. And she has owned her school since she had her braces on as walking through preschool halls, like teeny tiny. She has owned the hallway. She has stolen hearts. She's a very cute child, very tiny. She is now grown up and she's very confident. She's so confident. And these are one of the things that I always feared, that there's so much bullying out there, never mind adding that 13L. But Adeline, just to give you a picture, at the end of sixth grade, she put on a lip sync. So she was solo on stage, and I put together a 3.5 minute medley for Taylor Swift. And that kid was up there on stage by herself. She bowed 3 to 5 times and got like these ovations from her classmates. We go for the open house this year at the junior high, and I'm hearing adults and children say hi, Addie, that I have never seen before in my life. So she is quite popular in our district. However, the individual socialization efforts are tough. Really tough. So we've tried to enroll her. I've tried to, I don't know if it's against her will. She seems to like to go to Builders Club, which fosters community involvement and fundraising, etc. Not to a heavy degree, but just getting them used to community service work. Then also drama clubs. So I'm not sure where exactly she'll fit. She's certainly not going to make the audition for the one of the top characters, but we're going to integrate her somewhere that way. So I am making it a point to go out of my way to make sure these extracurriculars are kind of built in. Sports is not a thing that has been easy for us, as in most districts. I know how much of a strong athletic family yours is, Vanessa. We didn't start at like 3, and when we tried to get her on the soccer field, even at 5, she would go on and come off or go, and it wasn't really the inclusive environment we needed. We did find Able Athletics after our diagnosis, so that was a huge gift to our family. And Adeline loves, like, I played field hockey. She loves field hockey. She'd probably love coming more. It's just a little bit more distance. So we're looking forward to that model. But socialization outside of school is really tough. We've had to work very hard for that.
Do you deal with a lot of behavioral issues with Addie?
No, in fact, we are currently tapering from her Keppra medication, and we've
Oh,
done.
congratulations. That's
Yeah, thank
exciting.
you.
Yeah.
That came with like the Keppra rage, and so I think part of her medication and just general like moving through her pre-adolescence is has presented some behavioral challenges. Like she could be very grumpy. This year she's excited to go to school and she doesn't like stay in bed too late. She's like getting up and doing things herself, which is great. She is generally pretty great to be around. She's very chill when her sister's gone, like the house is quiet and we can enjoy each other. I'm not sure.
I wonder because we have a two-boy household with
Yeah.
Elle, and it's always like WWE.
Oh my God, speaking of that, yeah, that's one of the things she loves right now.
Elle's into it.
Stop it.
Cody Rhodes is her favorite. She makes
Okay.
us all have to have our own. We're not allowed to have the same
Stop.
ones. Yeah, we went to the WWE Christmas show at Madison Square Garden.
This is really exciting, everyone. Addie went straight from like idolizing Taylor Swift to WWE, and Rhea Ripley is her fave. So now she's wearing like the Rhea t-shirt, and oh my goodness, we'll have to go. It's exciting. That's funny to hear.
I love that. I love that. I think there's a lot of energy that comes with watching WWE. There's a lot of input that they get. Elle gets a lot of inspiration. So she's jumping all over the house now and crashing into things. And yeah, it's hilarious.
Do you find, Vanessa, that she takes over the persona?
Yeah.
And there's something about being able to slip into another persona or archetype for Addie, I think, that where she is also confidence building.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a better discipline to address this, but it's fascinating to me to watch.
I think Elle does. She tends to gravitate towards the confident role
Mhm.
models. She herself is obsessed with Taylor Swift as well. And I think she sings along as well as I do because I don't know the words. So we kind of
Mhm.
sound similar,
Yeah.
which is really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, she loves Taylor Swift. And I mean, I do wish we just lived closer because they would probably be like
Yeah.
the best of friends. But how does Addie manage her independence with getting herself ready, planning her
Mm.
day, getting ready for bed? How much intervention do you have to give?
So up until recently, it was a lot of intervention. And I have to say that through FSS OPWDD, the only service that was available to me, whether it be because of hiring and staff turnover or location or day of the week or funding even, I was able to find just one program that I could use, and it was a behavioral therapist. So I talked to him every other week, and that has been integral in helping me to modify what we are doing at home. I'm sure there are other services that I hadn't caught wind of all along. So it was tough. I was like the mom, like, come on, Addie, we have to go. Of course, that would be dysregulating for her and she would shut down. So now I've learned all of this. Now we have a great system. The more visual I can make things, I wish I had this at 3. I started making last year like worksheets. Like you can check this off. Backpack, a picture of a backpack, picture of a water mug, anything that she needed to do, she could check off because she needs that visual reminder to do it. And she can't take more than like 2-step instructions because she'll just be distracted. So now actually the skylight, it's expensive. And I know that not everybody will be able to do this, but was able, instead of me creating something every week or photocopying, I now have like a screen in my dining room and I do it for her sister and she has it too. So in the morning when she checks off that she's taken her medicine and she's gotten dressed and brushed her teeth and put on your deodorant, the tool will just like throw confetti and congratulate them that they've done this. So positive reinforcement is really great for Addie. Now she can do all of that alone. She paces a little bit. And I think we probably don't give her enough credit for her time awareness, although sometimes it's very obvious that's not there. So we also were introduced to a timer, which is great. It shows like 15 minutes and then the green will go down to nothing as the time's expiring. So any tools that you can integrate for that would be really helpful. I think that's been helpful for her. And just us redirecting her, not managing her, just redirecting her. Oh, okay, what's next? And then like giving her the tool to be autonomous to do that. I mean, someday she's not going to have us to remind her, right? So I'll say that's gotten better just recently. I also think it's helpful that she's very excited to go to school. So she wants to get on the bus. I brought her in late the other day or picked her up when she was sick, and I just naturally like grabbed her hand. She's like, "No, Mom, like that's right. We're in seventh grade now. I can't do that." So she's picking up on those cues too. It was tough in the past. It's gotten better, but I believe it's gotten better because of what we've done.
Clearly, you've put a lot of thought and effort, time into making sure that she's set up for success. And to your point, after we're gone, right? It's so important.
Yeah, and that only comes, Vanessa, I think, with the acceptance piece. It was very hard for me when she was younger. And so another great thing that came with the diagnosis was this idea of, okay, I'm not alone. There's many of us doing this, many of us with the same struggles. What do we need to do? Let's just like get to work now. What do we need to do? And so that was really helpful in encouraging a different approach after I could just accept this is where we are. One more thing I wanted to say, Vanessa, we didn't touch on like her ability to take care of herself. So pre-adolescence and hygiene, terrible. We really need to help a lot. She needs a lot of hand holding without, even with visuals up on the shower, she will just stand in the water for 40 minutes if we let her. So I'm still looking for ways to kind of improve that. That's tough and it might be for that age cohort anyway.
That's true. So every child with MED13L has their own mix of strengths and challenges. And what would you say Addie's greatest strengths are?
I think Addie is very observant. She knows what's going on. She's watching. She can show empathy. It's either like really hyper strong or not at all, which is interesting. She's very inclusive. She always has been celebratory. If she's playing a game with someone, it doesn't matter whether you lost or what, like great sportsmanship. She's willing to try new things. I think she kind of flows way better than her sister does with whatever activity we're doing. And you would think that would be more of a challenge for her, but it's not. She's willing to try new things. Again, the key is to like connect with her first, and then we can have success. Other strengths. The other day when we were, socialization is such a big thing on my heart all the time, but we attended a Halloween party we go to every year, and there were a couple girls that are older than her that are like 15, 16. She left us and just walked right up to them. Not even being able to like hold a full conversation, and she was excited to be with them. So that, of course, just like warmed my heart, and I saw that. So she'll take initiative. Other strengths, she's a great big cousin. More practically, I mean, we talked about what's challenging. She needs that redirection. She needs tools so that she can be autonomous. Struggles again with the reading and like the deeper expression. Although, if we could hear that from her, I'm not sure if she would agree or if she's just an easier kid.
So, throughout the Facebook group, a lot of families have reported precocious puberty. Can you give us a little insight on where Addie has been with that and what has your journey been so far?
Yes, I really only have her sister and my own experience to compare to, but I think we started seeing signs, the earliest signs of puberty, maybe around 8, like before our diagnosis for sure. And then that had kind of sped up, and now we're menstrual at 11. And so not really uncommon. I don't know. Some providers said that wouldn't be labeled precocious. So she's doing a great job, like taking care of herself. And I was always very open about, what this is, what this means. So it wasn't even a surprise. I think that's just kind of like a generational change, which is exciting, I think, for girls, especially. And she's taking care of herself at school, but I do have to have some communication with the school, like, okay, we need to be extra sensitive. Let's set reminders to make sure she knows to take care of herself. Also, incontinence is something that we struggle with. I would say physically, incontinence, the speech delay are two of the obvious things. So, nighttime, for example, we still wear protection at night, every night. And we've gone to the urologist several times. We can't seem to get the tests done that they want to get done when they want them and the bladder control. So she seems to be growing out of that, which is awesome. Also, the tapering from Keppra, we've noticed a big change in the daytime incontinence. So, and we're just talking about voiding, thankfully for us, was our only challenge. So that is less of a problem now, which is great being in middle school. And there's different garments we can introduce that are more helpful to management here now, which is great as a mom to know that she can do that.
Are you using any medical management to help manage her cycle?
No, nope, just totally natural. We've actually not seen anybody else beside her regular primary care doctor. It was suggested, I think, in the group even to consider and through our providers, our endocrinologists, like, is this precocious puberty? Do we need to manage it? Do we need any kind of like hormone intervention? We decided not to do that. That was right for our family. I had natural births at home. And so we're just very much about the body doing its thing. We've not had any suggestion to do anything different at this time. We've been offered Gardasil, hepatitis B. Those are things we're not considering at this time. I don't know her to be in a place that we have to address those things just yet, although I think probably part of the programming at school. So we'll have to increase those conversations, but nothing outside of our primary care at this time.
Thank you for sharing that. So, as Addie continues to grow, what keeps you hopeful as you look ahead, and what are your goals for her in the future?
Yeah, I think any of us might say our goal is for her to be able to navigate, or our child to be able to navigate the world safely. So, really, just I'd love for her to be able to live independently. I'd love for she'll have a job of some sort, but I want more than that. I want her to feel fulfilled. I want her to, like, maybe help run an organization. That'd be exciting. It's hard to tell because she's 12 and we don't even ask these questions probably of neurotypical kids, but I want her to be able to live independently. Bottom line. I don't know that she'll be able to drive. She had a little electric vehicle around the house and she loved being able to move that around. And she's actually a better driver than her sister in that thing. So it's interesting. She may not possess the skills. We tell her if you ever want to drive, you have to be able to read. And
That's good
so
motivation.
yeah, it's good motivation. So if I had a friend who posted something years ago that said something to the effect of like, if she never leaves the nest, then I'll live with my best friend for the rest of my life. So I am motivated to make sure that I don't have to helicopter and have her here forever. I want her to feel that autonomy too. But it is my wish that despite what can be a tough world, that we give her the tools that she can navigate and live independently. I don't know what that environment will look like because I know that there are impacts to both the family if we have an adult child home with disabilities. And Vanessa got approval for Medicaid. So I'm new to that was an 18-month process, and I'm new to what the new doors that open for us and what services will be available. And I just learned too that her educational experience, she will have support through 21 in New York. So that's exciting too. Beyond that, I don't know. I'm just trying to do the best job that we can do now and gather information.
It sounds like you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
So, for many families listening are just beginning their MED13L journey, what would you want them to know?
Just first, like, talk. One of the earliest conversations I had was with you, Vanessa, because I realized you were in New York. This is just such a great story to share, I think. I put my name immediately on the Christmas card list. This was 3 months after our diagnosis, and I got maybe 4 or 5 Christmas cards. So thank you to those that sent them. And one of them was postmarked from New York. So immediately I went to the internet to see what I could find and realized we're at least within an hour and a half drive. And so that was so helpful for me to just be on that call. And now the Med13L Foundation, I mean, I know that they're working tirelessly as a new ambassador to welcome families in and pay attention to your emails. It's another thing, but truly, there are so many of us that are willing to share our experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hopeful, the awful. And so, community is the best thing that you can do. Just plug in. We're grateful that we even have this infrastructure that didn't exist so many years ago before the foundation. So, I would say plug in.
I agree with that. We are a foundation that's primarily run by volunteers and volunteer parents at that. So we're all living the same life, struggling in the same ways, and wishing for the same bright future. So leaning into the foundation in whatever capacity anyone has, whether it's time or filling out surveys or just lending an ear, it's really impactful for those that are just joining the Med13L community. Would you mind sharing your steps to acceptance?
That's a really good question. Again, I think it came with the diagnosis where I finally had some answers. But I would encourage that took me 9 years. It was 9 years. We also had hardship in our lives personally. We had divorce and separate households that we worked around, I think, as best we could. Those steps to acceptance, I mean, it's natural. We're all living life, we're all busy. Many of us are running businesses in addition to families with sports schedules, etc. Aging parents. Some of us are sandwiched now in that generation. So I think just don't give up every day. If there's one little thing that you can do, I know things got more difficult the more I picked something up and then put it down. This Medicaid application, for example, keep things going. I know that work is really hard in the advocacy world. There'll be times where you have no help and no time, and lean on your partners and bring other people in. I know as moms we can generally be, it's not always the case, the one that holds all of these tasks. I now look back and think that some of the steps, if I took sooner, I would even have more support than if any of that kind of fell off. So like we give ourselves a lot of grace and also keep pushing. The more I spent time taking action, the less I was in my head about feeling bad about the situation and the more opportunistic and hopeful I saw Med13L as being in part of our lives.
I love that. Acceptance is so hard for everybody and it looks different for everyone, right? And I
Yeah.
think that you can only make a meaningful impact, not only in the community, but first and foremost, your child's life. You can only do that when you have accepted who they are. And
Mhm.
it's not anyone's fault. It wasn't a choice. It wasn't something that you did. And it's just who they are. And you celebrating their inch stones
Yeah.
and appreciating how hard they're working for every little accomplishment, every little success, and acknowledging that and treating it like it's the Super Bowl that they just won. Really, I think it brings such positive energy, not only towards them, but to your whole family and to the whole household. It really just, I think, brings light into such a dark space because as we're trying to work through what this may look like for the rest of not just their lives, but our lives, right? It's just trying to allow in some level of light, right? And
It has to be.
Katie, thank you for sharing such an honest and hopeful glimpse into Addie's life at 12 years old. This conversation will mean so much to parents who are wondering what the future might hold for their own children living with MED13L. I appreciate you for being a part of Growing Up with MED13L on the Voices of MED13L.
Thank you for having me, Vanessa. I'm happy to be a sounding board for any family.